Hi, this is Jay Holston with Moving the Needle, and I'm really excited to have it's a chance to have a chat with Randy Lieberman. Randy has spoken with my Vistage group prior, and the reason I'm really wanting to sponsor a lunch session with him is that I find his topic to be very compelling. And it's kind of one of those things that's really misunderstood. It's around R&D tax credits. I was particularly lucky early in my career with my software company that I'm guess as I look back now, an above average CPA because they kind of took me under their wing and they said, "Hey, Jay, you're innovating this software product. You can reduce your taxes considerably if you keep track of all the time you're spending, which is innovating something new, which in our case was a significant portion of our effort. And so, just in the exhaust of kind of getting that set up into my business processes, I was doing a good job of tracking R&D credits. This is a benefit that was a significant benefit for my company during the time that I owned it. And I was even lucky enough once I sold the company because I retained the S Corp entity and performed work from that later on. I was able to take benefit from those R&D tax credits post sale, which I recognize is unique, but it's certainly something that, if any of you are thinking about selling your businesses and looking at structure, this would be something, a good nugget to put in to ask your CPA or the folks that are giving you advice in your transaction to see if this is an asset you might be able to retain. And certainly, and I've worked with my customers. I was such a firm believer in the R&D tax credit that when I worked with Encana Natural Gas, we were doing a well planning solution for them, and we gave the ability for them to track all of their R&D efforts, which previously it was in an entity that large, it was very hard to get individuals to track and time record that information. But if we did it just in the exhaust of being their business process management solution, where they could set a flag, it was very easy to capture. And they captured millions of dollars of savings that they wouldn't have otherwise. And that was all just because of having the systems that were in place and making it so easy to use. And so the benefit is huge. And so, Randy, I'd like to turn it over to you so that you can kind of explain a little bit about yourself and what you do and help those that might be watching this video kind of quickly identify, hey, is this appropriate for me? In really kind of targeting who are kind of the ideal folks to take advantage of an R&D tax credit.
Great. Thank you for the opportunity. And I will say at the start that you're the hero in this equation by bringing visibility to this credit. Just by background to give perspective, I started off working for Nestle. It's been a decade with JP Morgan doing corporate investment banking before moving to early venture capital. And I tell people it was 25 years after I left Nestle before I got involved with my first R&D tax credit study. So you're bringing this visibility is huge. And I always characterize it very simply. This is a hidden treasure. Too often companies are leaving money on the table they should be putting in their pockets for work they've already done. They've already earned the stimulus, but they don't realize it. Your energy example is also a great one in that it's very similar to a client we worked with not too long ago, where they were actually in. Admittedly, this is a more sexy opportunity, but they basically were using software to integrate machine learning, physics-based monitoring, modeling, drone and sensors analysis to build autonomous system so they could facilitate real-time decisions. And so we had that into the spectrum, as well as companies doing software, everything from medical devices, record keeping, to AI, where they're simply either developing a new solution or enhancing and improving it. All of that work that involves experimentation that takes place within the US, either with the company's employees or independent contractors, is eligible for this credit. And again, it is too often left on the table. And so we certainly welcome the opportunity to work with companies. The companies that we work with the most are really somewhat divided between mature companies that have been established, are generating revenues, are paying taxes, and continuing to invest, continuing to be competitive. And it's that investment that they're making in R&D that we're able to leverage and utilize to offset payroll taxes. I'm sorry, to offset taxable income, We can go back 3 years and do amended returns for those that have missed the opportunity. And then whatever work they don't take advantage of in terms of the stimulus, they can actually carry it forward to offset taxes for 20 up to 20 years. In the case of less mature companies, startups, possibly funded startups in particular, they are able to take advantage of actually offsetting payroll taxes, which
Mm.
all that does in both cases is extend their runway, their cash flow that they can continue to invest in new innovation, new opportunities, and growth.
Fantastic. Well, I appreciate that. And so, what is the work that's required? Like, let's say everybody says, okay, you had me at hello. This is something I want to do. What is it I need to do to be able to derive this benefit?
So when we work with a company, our process is we will first come in and we'll do a discovery call at no cost to really understand what is their circumstances, what kind of innovation are they doing. When it comes to the work on the company side, where they will help us is they will do the collection, really aggregating the support materials tied to employees, the time and percentages associated with the R&D effort, with independent contractors. Usually we'll get a copy of one of those contracts and look at the respective contracts to confirm who owns intellectual property, who owns, the substantial rights, who took the risk in the work that was done. And then we will actually build up on our end, basically doing the qualification, the quantification, and then the documentation. And the key with the documentation is to assess, what's qualified research. And so that's just confirming, was it technical in nature? Did it have uncertainty at the onset? Was there experimentation? It's not a very time consuming. It is a function of really just tapping into the resources that are available. And from time to time, we'll also have to have some additional visibility on the documentation. We have done a lot to make it easy for our clients, given our deep experience in working with companies.
I would second a couple points that you made. Unless the regulations have changed tremendously since I was doing the work for R&D tax credit, once you've kind of have those steps and those gates and those decision criterias understood, and you've really kind of then it just becomes a habit. It's routine. It's like breathing, where you can start to capture that information. And so it does sound maybe a little bit complicated at the beginning, but anybody who's listening to this video, I would encourage you to learn more, because certainly the rewards are well worth it. And once you have the processes set up within your company, it is the same as doing nothing, and, and it really
Well,
is not that dramatic.
it's not dramatic, and what we find is the other opportunity that often gets missed is it's not a one and done. If you're a company that's innovating, developing software or product or technical process, as you continue to enhance and improve that process, you are generating additional stimulus opportunities year over year. And so we'll come back. Typically we're engaged, year after year after year to look at what work was done. We will capture the prior work, we'll establish the baselines, and we also work with companies to say, look, here's some things that you might want to do. If you're developing a product, for example, go ahead and create a line item within your ledger that says this is R&D supplies. And so going forward, the tracking the information is easy. Certainly with anything in experience, the first time you get on the bike, there's a nervousness that you're going to fall, but most people don't fall, and we provide the training wheels to make the whole process smooth. Um,
Absolutely. And we did it for the full 12 years that I had the business.
yeah.
So I agree, it's not a one and done. It's an ongoing process, because companies that innovate are constantly innovating. It's you innovate or you die.
Well,
I'm also very curious if you can kind of, I know this is probably the hardest part of our whole talk, is to quantify or give some expectation of benefits, but anything that you can say that kind of helps people recognize the magnitude, or equate, what this could be for them.
certainly. So, as a starting point, the focus is not per se on revenues. It's really about what is a company spending on qualified research
Mhm.
expenses. And so that's really important because often companies get tripped up on, well, do I have enough revenues? Can I justify it? And it's really a function of, are you investing in qualified research with your own employees, with independent contractors? And in the case of a product company, are you developing prototypes? In the case of a manufacturer, how you deploy that equipment also can involve a process that can be captured as a technical process, where we don't include equipment because it's a depreciable asset, all those other expenses all apply. The simple math, depending on the company and the age, is going to be anywhere from 6 to 10% at the federal level. The higher percentage is going to be a function of being a startup. And then depending on what state the work is done, there also may be another additional credits up to 5%. Where it differs state by state is sometimes it rewards geography, sometimes it rewards industry. And so our process is we always look at the federal credit, and then we go, as we are collecting the information of where people have a physical seat, we're able to look at the state level credits and also advise them on whether or not it makes sense. Sometimes they may be eligible, but the juice isn't worth the squeeze. And we'll always say, don't spend a dollar to chase a dime. But in the same regard, don't leave a dime on the table when it's just there that be in your pocket. The other thing to note is, and I should have noted this earlier, is this is across all industries. This isn't if I'm not doing AI, I'm not eligible. If we're not sending a rocket to space, we're not eligible. That said, we have several space companies that are thrusting the satellites from one to another or doing telecommunications. But we've done a ton of work in medical devices. We've done work in agriculture. There's an amazing amount of technology that's involved. We do a lot of work in the manufacturing side. We've done, across the spectrum on software. Any software development, product development, technical processes that someone's doing, I can't emphasize enough, we should spend some time looking at whether or not it's eligible. And if it is, let's make sure that hidden treasure is uncovered.
That's very good, and I speak with an awful lot of software companies, and I haven't been asking them, hey, is this something you're taking advantage of? But that's something I'll certainly start doing, and I like your analogy of uncovering hidden treasure. What I would like to say is for folks that have been with us this long, and this is something you're interested in learning more about. We're putting together a lunch series. I bring in every other month. I'll bring in speakers on different topics. In April, Randy is going to be our guest, and this will give an opportunity to meet him in person. Also gives an opportunity to, discuss your particular situation potentially in more detail. We're having it on Wednesday, April 8th from 12 to 1, and we're having it in Plano at the First United Bank. And so, what I'd recommend is I'll try to have a link to a landing page that'll be with this video. But if for some reason that doesn't work out well, just hit me with a quick reply or something through LinkedIn. I'll be looking at it, and I'd love to have a conversation with you. And we're limiting it just to the 16 folks that can come to it. But I would certainly love to have you come to this topic. And if it doesn't work out for this one, we'll keep you in mind for future ones that may be more applicable. So, Randy, certainly thank you for kind of helping to provide this introduction, and look forward to you speaking with the group in more detail on April 8th.
I look forward to the opportunity. Our mission is to be a catalyst for innovation in any way that we can help. That is what our focus is.
Fantastic. Well, thank you,
Thank you.
and I look forward to seeing you soon. Thanks. Take care. Goodbye.